Okay, so everyone can hear me? All good? Okay, wonderful. So if you haven't met me at a previous virtual event, because this is our 6th virtual event, and I'm also just curious, put in the chat if this is your first time at a Travel Cat virtual event or if you're a newbie. Because we've had enough now that I know we have a lot of returners as well. So we're really excited to host our first annual Travel Cat Summit. First of all, so happy to see all the cats on the screen. We encourage you again to keep your cats close by, go in front of your camera, block you, and be super cute throughout the event. So I am the co-founder of Travel Cat. My name is Emily, and I will be your host for the evening and be with you throughout this really fun event that's going to take place over the next few hours. So what's the background behind Travel Cat? So actually you might notice there is a cat on my screen. Do you see her? That's Andy. She's in the Meow Bowl home. It's one of her favorite spots. I'm trying to point with her, not awkwardly. So Andy is the reason that my husband and I started Travel Cat. So we rescued Andy on a whim from the backyard of one of our neighbors, and we had no plans on ever having cats, and neither of us had ever had cats as pets before meeting Andy. And we became cat people hard and fast overnight. And I'm just curious how many of you rescued your cat or adopted your cat like we did. And so once we became cat people, you know, we realized a couple of big things. So one, we realized that, you know, there was really a lot of bad information about what it is to be a cat parent and what you need to do to help cats have happy and healthy lives, right? So how many people have heard people say, oh yeah, cats just sleep all day, right? Cats are easy. You know, they don't need much, right? And so it's really not true. And what we're going to find out and talk a lot about today is how you can create a really wonderful, healthy experience for your cat that involves enrichment and stimulation, including safely exploring beyond the great indoors. And what we also realized is that there really were not a lot of brands, and still aren't a lot of brands out there that are fully focused on cats and cat only. You know, there's a lot of pet brands, or maybe for dogs, and then, oh, you could also use it for cats. So my husband and I, both being entrepreneurs, we knew, all right, we want to start a company that fully focuses now and forever on cats and cat people, and creating products that will help people create enrichment and stimulation for their cats, again, beyond the great indoors. So we started Travel Cat in 2017, and we've now become the #1 cat travel brand in the world. We've shipped to over 75 countries. And I do see there's a lot of folks here from outside of the US. And really our mission is to change what people think about what it is to have a cat and be a good cat parent, and, you know, raise a happy and healthy cat. And a big part of my role at the company is to do things like this, host events, build community, create opportunities from us all to learn from each other online. And, you know, now we're starting to go back to cat conventions too. So hopefully a bit offline as well as things adjust and whatnot. So for this event, after we close up the intro, which we're working on now, you are going to have 3 or 4 options of sessions to go to during each breakout session. So if folks on my team can just share the program, again, there's a lot of activity in the chat, which is amazing. But the program is going to be your way to find out which Zoom room to join based on which session that you want. So let's see, I'm just going to share it again myself. And you should also have the link to that program in the email confirmation that you received as well. So take a minute to open up that program and sign up for the Zoom rooms that you're most interested in attending. There you go. There's the event program as well from Ami. So we're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. But before we do, I also just wanted to share some other ways that you can stay and get involved in the Travel Cat community. So we have a really awesome loyalty program. And one of the big benefits of the loyalty program is that we use it as a way to connect with people like you to help us develop new products. So I know we have some people here, for instance, who have been a part of our product development feedback sessions where we get on a Zoom and ask you guys about, you know, what is it that you want to see in products that exist already or, you know, haven't seen yet, because we're all about creating brand new products as well. So that is a link to our Travel Cat Club. If you're someone who loves sharing their opinion and also loves connecting with other cat people, definitely sign up for that. And I do just want to show one thing. So if you want to learn more about Travel Cat products, this main room is going to remain up throughout the entire event, and it's going to be a Travel Cat product Q&A session, and also just a session for you to ask questions between whoever's in here. So I'm going to stay in here for the first session, and we have other folks that are going to be in this main room talking about the products and how they use them and that sort of thing. So if you want to learn more about our products, definitely come into stay in the main room for at least one of the sessions. And also, we're going to be giving away prizes during all of the sessions today. So every single session, we'll be giving out at least 1 or 2 prizes, maybe even more. So attend as many sessions as possible to have more chances to win. And I do just want to show one thing really quick. This is our brand new product that we officially are launching today. And you are all the first to see it and the first to have access to pre-order it. So this is really cool and exciting because it's a product like I said, that we, you know, did user sessions with people like y'all to come up with it. This is called the Transporter. So the Transporter is now available for pre-order. Only you guys have access to that. It's in the same link. We just changed it today, just launched it live today, the link where you got your tote bag. But I did just want to show one of the really cool features about this one. It's the ultimate calming carrier. So this slides out so you can easily get your cat in and out. And it also has a seamless lining. So if your cat has an accident in it, it's okay. And you can carry it 4 ways. You can carry it by the handle. You can carry it with the shoulder strap or as a backpack, or through a luggage handle. So it's 4 ways. And yes, my cat loves to snooze in it too. You can see how much cat hair is in there because she sleeps in there all the time. So really excited about this product. Again, we'll share links to it throughout the event. And with that, I want to split up into our breakout rooms. And yes, it does have a top loader too. If you want to learn more about this, again, stay in the main room for one of the breakouts and we can show it off a little bit more. But for now, we want you guys to head to the next sessions based on which you want to attend. So we're going to put in the chat. So take a pause on sharing in the chat right now so we can share the links to the upcoming Zoom rooms. So the program is there. Caitlin just shared it. So just everyone, don't use the chat right now so we can share the links to where you all want to go to. But again, if you go to the program, that's like the short link. It's the same as the Google Doc link. That has all the new Zoom links in it. So now is the time to break off. Yes, so you can move to the new Zoom rooms, and especially to my wonderful speakers, please head to your new Zoom room. Give a couple of minutes for people to head there. So for instance, harness training 101 is in this room. Hold on, just put that in the chat. Okay, and yeah, go to the event program if you haven't checked that out. That's where all the Zoom, and I see people leaving, so I hope that means that they are headed. Okay, so that's the harness training room. Just put that in the chat. We got our backpack training room. Thanks everyone for your patience on the room changes. All right. All right, and I see 1 and 2, those rooms are up and running for sure. And then room 3 is this, Beyond the Basics. All right, cool. So all 3 of the rooms are up and running. So if you're here, hopefully that means you want to hang out and stay with us. Harness, okay, let's see, the harness room. Right, just talking to my colleagues, making sure we're all set in the other room before we get started. Oh, hey, Denise. Denise, you're our #1 virtual event attendee. All right, room number 2. Let me make sure that's going. All right, let's see. I know all the rooms are working, so let me just double check and see what the second link is. Okay, Zoom 2 is that one. Room 2, backpack. Okay, and it looks like our harness training is full, but the other 2 are not. So check out backpack training or Beyond the Basics and training older cats, or you can stay and hang out with me and myself and I have other folks here with me who are gonna do the demo. And let me just pin Naya. Hey Naya, how's it going? You can unmute yourself now if you want to introduce yourself. All right, so we're gonna get started in here. Okay, it looks like all the rooms are functioning. If you're having trouble my team is telling me that room 2 is working. So if you're having an issue, just stay here because we're going to talk about the basics in here as well. So have no fear. So Inaya, I'm going to answer people in the chat. Do you want to just start by sharing a little bit of your background of how you started taking your cats out and sort of the basics of how you made it happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So I adopted my first cat, Clementine, in December of 2020. And around that time, I was following a lot of like cat hashtags on Instagram and a lot of cat related accounts. And that's kind of how I was introduced to the world of adventure cats and taking your cats hiking, traveling with your cats, just anywhere you take a dog, you can really take a cat. And so that's when I kind of did research on, I was like, okay, I need a harness, I want a backpack, and that's how I found Travel Cat. And I started with their Fat Cat backpack, which I love, my cats love. They use it when we're at home just as like a hangout spot. And then I got the Travel Cat harness, which was like surprisingly, my cat's really warmed up to. This is Heathcliff. He is 11 months old, and we have been traveling and adventuring since he was about 3 months old. So he is basically a pro as a kitten still. Yeah, and that's us. And
Very
we,
cool.
yeah.
Well, yeah. And so since folks here, might want to know kind of the 101 of how to get started, I'll just share a little bit of how I started, and then you can share that as well. So my one cat, Andy, like I said, she's sleeping in the Meowable home back there. And my other cat, Wolfie, is somewhere around her. He's wearing the 90s harness. But one of the most basic fundamental tips that I have from my experience, and also just listening to so many folks like Inaya and other speakers here today, is one, you have to be really patient, and two, you have to take things slow and steady. So when it comes to the harness or the backpack, doing things just a little bit at a time. So for instance, putting the harness on and then giving them a treat immediately, or giving them their favorite food, or actually feeding them. And the same with the backpack, letting them just go in it and explore it, leaving it out in a place that they are likely to jump into it because it's where they normally hang out. And when they're in there, zip it up, walk around the house a little bit at the beginning. Cats are not dogs, and that is a big thing that we always stress. I think we all know that cats are not dogs. So, you have to just make sure you take things slow and really pay attention to your cat's body language as well. And even just the act of, so for us, we're in New York City. So we take our cats out on the balcony, and we have a front yard. It's really not a front yard. It's like a parking lot. But even just taking Wolfie, especially, he's our orange boy cat. He's very active. Taking him out there for like 10 minutes at a time, a few times a week, really helps get his energy out. And we're really happy that we have the opportunity to do that. So I'll put it back to you. Are there any other beginner basic tips that you feel like have been really important to your journey in the travel cat training?
Yes. So you touched on something that was very important in my process, which is treats. But I think overall, it's finding what motivates your cat. And my cat is very food motivated. And so and speaking of, I have this Travel Cat little treat pouch, and we have one of Heathcliff's favorite treats in here. And just one of the reasons why he's just so chill right here is because I've been just feeding him treats to get him to we're doing a session now. So we're gonna be here. And so he's very food motivated. So he's gonna stick around to where the food is. Another thing is patience. I think that's really key as well. And when you're starting, it's not going to be, okay, today is day one, we're going outside, because that's going to shock your cat, and your cat more than likely will not acclimate very well. And one of the things that I did is, when I first got the backpack and when I first got the harness, I just left it out. And cats will naturally sniff out things that are new to their environment. It's a very neutral object. They don't associate it with anything yet. So they're like, let me crawl into it. Let me see what this is. And even with the harness, I would put the harness on Heathcliff, but I wouldn't take him out. I would just let him get a feel for wearing the harness. They may be stiff at first, but that's okay. because they'll eventually learn like, oh, I can still move, especially
Yeah,
if
or
they're
the opposite of stiff, which is like the liquid cat or the floppy cat, right?
yeah, exactly. And I think some people automatically think, oh no, they're stiff. This is never going to work. But that's not true. If you just leave them in the harness, trust me, they will figure it out. They will, especially when they're hungry, they will get up and they will get their food and they will realize, oh, I can walk. And if they have other cats in the home and they see them playing, and their instinct will be to jump in and they'll forget they're wearing the harness. And before you know it, they're able to do these things in the harness, especially if you're giving them treats, and they'll note that I get more treats when I'm wearing this thing. I get more treats when I'm in this thing, that sort of thing. And cats are very, very smart. They pick up on what's going on around them. And so I think those are really the two key things is patience, letting your cat adjust and acclimate within the safe space of their home, and then finding what motivates them, whether that's play, whether that's food, whether that's like, you know, maybe just attention from their
Yeah, I was
human.
gonna say, yeah, affirmations, high-pitched voices, good job, things that your cat responds to. But definitely, if when you're deciding that you want to backpack and harness train, you should be thinking about what are the most high motivating sort of things. What are the things that motivate your cat the most, whether it's a certain type of food, feeding time, or say certain toys. So play was mentioned a lot as well. You really want to start saving those things just for when you're backpack and harness training, because it's not going to feel special if it's something you do all the time, right? So for me, for instance, I do buy a good amount of cat toys because I feel like you got to cycle through them and introduce new things. But if I find a toy, for instance, I have like this crazy wand called like the bird, and it makes them go crazy. So I really like to use that wand toy when they're wearing the harness, because I know it's going to get them to move around and motivate them to play more so than they would ever be with any other toy, so you got to really save those high motivating situations for the backpack and harness training for sure. And this is also meant to be a Q&A, so please, keep checking out the chat or use the chat where I'm kind of looking over at both places. So if you have questions, we can take them as we go. And we can also, if you have any specific questions about any of our products, I have a lot of them back here, not all of them, but a lot of them, you can ask those as well. You can raise your digital hand or just put it in the chat. And if you're having trouble getting into room 2, apologies. I did share the link. I'm going to share it again, but ask your questions here because we're basically doing another version of Backpack and Harness 101 here. So yes, for those of you who are wondering, what our which product holds the most. So the Fat Cat, which we have back there, and the Navigator and the Jackson all hold up to 25 pounds of cat. And a lot of people actually do use those for 2 cats as well sometimes, if they're 2 smaller cats that get along, of course. That's very important. Yes. What else? Any other questions? Yes, and sorry, our one room did max out, but ask your questions here. I'm telling you, we got good experience here, so we're happy to answer your questions here. What else? So what was one of your first sort of like bigger trips that you did, and like how did it go? Once you got past the basics, can you share a little bit about that, or like your first time actually say going outdoors with the cat versus having them just try on the harness and backpack inside?
Yes. So my apartment is near, actually conveniently located next to a trail that circles the Central Lake here in Austin. We're in Austin, Texas. So that was kind of our like start. So like you mentioned, Emily, you would start like on your balcony. Well, my apartment at the time didn't have a patio, balcony, anything like that. So we were kind of having to go out into a separate space. But it went really, really well because they were already very acquainted and comfortable with the backpack. And this backpack to this day is their safe space. So sometimes, even when we're traveling, they will not even leave the backpack because it's like, this is home, this is safety, especially if it's a new environment. But from my own personal experience, my cat prefers like nature walks, and being like in nature where they have not necessarily free roam, but not so confined. Like they can sniff out the different plants and things, and kind of walk around on the harness. And that my experience honestly has been really positive. My other cat, Clementine, she would have her moments, especially with car traffic, where she would get very, very anxious. And I think in those moments, what I would do to soothe her anxieties is she would be comforted by pets and like scratches. And so I would just scratch her, and that would kind of distract her. She wouldn't necessarily, even though she would be motivated most of the time, I did learn that when she was feeling high anxiety, she was not very food motivated. And you may learn that about your cat is when you're harness training in the comfort of your home, they may seem motivated for one thing, but when they are feeling anxious or high stress, they may have a different motivation or different thing that comforts them. And that may be something you learn as you go.
Yeah, and I think something that's really important when you're starting to consider going outside of the house is really being thoughtful about where you choose to go, right? So for instance, you mentioned going on, nature trails, so outside. So for instance, if you want to go outside on a trail or in a park, think about what's a trail or park that you've definitely been to before, right? You don't want a place that you go with your cat to be new for you and your cat, right? You want to really know like what to expect. And for instance, picking trails or parks that are especially quiet, right? Maybe you're going during sort of off-peak times when there won't be a lot of kids or people around and you'll have a lot of space. So be really thoughtful and intentional, have a lot of intention about where you bring them so that you kind of, as much as possible. Like when you bring them out, you're never going to be able to fully control everything, but obviously you can do your best to make sure it's a good environment. For instance, you mentioned car traffic, sort of easing a cat into hearing noises if they're not used to them. Maybe if they're in the city like my cats are, they're used to noises from the window. But so again, bringing to a quiet place, bringing to a place where you can take a nice quick walk. And also another big tip is if you are able to bring a friend or a partner with you on these first adventures, it's definitely good to have a second pair of hands, right? It's definitely good to have somebody else there to help you out. And then also you always just want to make sure you have like an exit plan. What are you going to do if you notice your cat seems very stressed or panting or whatnot? You don't want to keep them in that situation. You really want to be able to take them out quickly. So that's a big one as well.
Yeah, and I also want to say, to your point about like having an exit strategy, like be very in tune with how your cat is trying to communicate with you, and don't force like your cat to push something through something where like their anxiety is just not being alleviated no matter what you try. In the beginning, it may just be like 5-minute outing or 10-minute outing. Like, don't go in expecting like we're gonna do a whole day of adventuring on day one. Like, you may have a cat that is in for that, but more than likely it's going to be in spurts. Another thing that's really important is having a schedule. Cats are very schedule oriented. And that will also help the cat understand, like, oh, this is our like outside time. I'm ready for this. So like maybe going around the same time every day, starting training around the same time every day, it will be really helpful in like getting your cat acclimated. Is kind of having a schedule around when you trap or when you go out with your cat.
Yeah. Good question from Cassandra. Concerns about taking your cat outside because of bugs or fleas or ticks. Definitely make sure you get that, medication, flea, tick treatment going before you take your cat out. Definitely. I mean, obviously certain areas you might be at more risk than others, but yeah, just like a dog, most dogs, well, you should always have them on the flea and tick medicine. Make sure you do that before you go out. I got a question about the litter box. So this is our portable litter box. And I'm going to be in the session, one of the sessions about car and hotel travel, because recently my husband and I, we took our two cats on a 40-hour road trip from New York to Florida and back. And we use, all of our own products. So this is our travel litter box, and it has a seamless lining. So what does that mean? You can see I've used it because there's some litter in here still. But how you clean it is just empty it out and wipe it down. But you don't have to worry about, there's like no crevices and stuff in it. So you can easily wipe it down. It's waterproof, and it's really great and practical if you need to travel. So this is what it looks like open. And then it also folds up really small. And it's got a pocket on top, which we kept extra litter and the scooper in this. And we did, like I said, the longest piece of the road trip, I think, was about 7 hours, 6 or 7 hours, and they did not use the litter box in the car. So I think a lot of people ask that question about like plane or car travel. I think cats just, they're going to wait to use the box when they're like settled. So I haven't heard of many instances at all where people actually use it in the car, but we did have it in the car just in case, but they really didn't end up using it. The litter box is claw resistant. Like it's double, the fabric is like very durable, thick, and the zipper is great because you don't have to dump the litter and get new litter each time, because you can zip it up and carry it around. But yeah, good question from Suki. We did time the feedings of our cats, because obviously cats are also great because you feed them and they poop and they pee, and it's pretty much happens right after each other, which is actually a good tip no matter what. You should definitely feed your cat and let them go to the bathroom before you take them out, whether that's because you have to on a long road trip or you're starting to adventure outside, because you don't want them to be hungry. And yeah, you don't want them to have to go to the bathroom, right? So yes, definitely a good tip to feed and let them go to the bathroom before you take them out. Just going back and looking up at questions. Yeah, and we had done smaller car trips with our cats before this longer trip, but they did fine. They did way better than we thought they would do. So we didn't build up to 40 hours. Like we didn't do a 10-hour, then a 20, then a 35. I mean, this was like a once a year trip. So I think the big thing is just to be prepared. My husband drove the whole time and I sat in the back with the two cats, and I would basically rotate them between different carriers. We had multiple carriers with us. So I would let them sort of move around every so often, but I only ever had one out at a time, because God forbid they were both like, my two cats could not handle that. And my two cats, they're nice to each other and they get along, but they're not bonded. So we had to be like very sort of cognizant. It wasn't like, oh, they're cuddled up with each other the whole car ride either. Go ahead.
So I did want to note something on, I think an earlier question that you touched on for a little bit. Someone asked, are there any concerns on taking your cat outside? And that I did want to mention as well, my cat in particular, is a FeLV cat. He is feline leukemia positive, which is basically a retrovirus that affects his immune system. And I think a lot of people who do have FeLV cats think they have to be strictly indoor cats. And I can say from experience that that's not true. You still can take a FeLV or immunocompromised cat outside. You do want to be more cognizant of the environment and where you go, and be knowledgeable about kind of what can like most impact your cat. And I think a vet is going to be the best resource for that. And just making sure like you do take your cat to the vet maybe more than once a year if they are indoor outdoor. But I just wanted to point that out, that like if you do have a cat that's immunocompromised or also FeLV positive, like don't be afraid to take them outside because it enriches their lives too.